Alright, I'm going to do another video on the principles of marksmanship. In the first video I went over stance and grip, and these are the other two aspects. We're talking about sight alignment and trigger control. And in the first video, just like this video, it's just basic information. It's what's been approved by the Department of Criminal Justice Training in Kentucky for use in the Conceal and Carry program. I'm not an expert. I'm not a master trainer expert in anything. I took a 2-day class, and I went to other certifications, and I've got the piece of paper that says I can teach a firearms class, but I'm not an expert. And just like in the first video I talked about grip and sight alignment, it's very individualized. I usually spend time in the class going over with people, and safety is the main thing. It's general guidelines that you can follow and sort of tell people, but mainly I want them to be safe above all. And just like you, safety is the goal. Anytime you're with firearms, safety is the #1 goal above anything else. So please take this information, this basic information. Hopefully it'll help you, but above all, be safe. Be safe, please, when you're handling firearms. Okay, we're going to talk about first sight alignment. What do these have in common? Sight picture, sight alignment, hold, or point of aim. You'll hear things referred to, all four of them. What do they have in common? Well, they're all the same. People basically interchange all these terms, and they all mean the same thing. Sight picture, sight alignment, hold, point of aim. The first thing you want to do, if you haven't already done it, like everybody knows what your dominant hand is, the hand usually that you write with. Most people don't know what their dominant eye is, so if you don't know what your dominant eye is, you need to determine that. Number one, here's one way to do it. You make a triangle with your hands and you focus on a small object, usually across the room. Without moving your head, continue to move your hands closer to your face while the object remains in the center of the triangle. And then keeping the object centered, bring your hands all the way to your face. The eye you're looking through at that point is your dominant eye. The other way you could do it is when you make the triangle like this and you focus on the object, you can just close one eye. And when I do that and I close my right eye, my left eye covers up most of it. When I close my left eye, my right eye, I can see it pretty much, the whole thing's right in the middle. So that's another easy way to do it. Sight alignment, you want to bring the weapon to your head, not your head to the weapon. Why? Well, number one, if you bring your head down, you're crouching down, and you're also looking down over the weapon, down at the sights. You're not going to have a good straight-on sight picture of the sights. Sight alignment, in the following slide, which of the sight picture illustrations is correct? So which of these is correct? Is this the correct sight picture, this, or number 3? The answer was number 2. You want the top of the sights all in a line, and you want to put that right exactly where you want the bullet to go. Sight alignment. It's physically impossible to focus on the target, the front sight, and the rear sight at the same time. You can't focus on 3 different things at the same time. So what is the solution? It's in the middle. You focus on the front sight. You can see in this picture the target is slightly blurry, the rear sights are slightly blurry, the front sight is in focus. This is good sight alignment, dead center impact, focus on the front sight. So there again, focus on the front sight. Okay, here's another example, proper hold, focus on the front sight. Here we have a picture where the target's in focus, the sights are blurry. And then this one, the target's blurry, and then the rear sights are in focus. This is the correct picture here. The target's blurry, the rear sights are slightly blurry, the front sight is in perfect focus. Then you also want to make sure that you have the same amount of space on each side of the front sight, and as you can see here, the front sight is perfectly in line with the rear sights, and there's the exact amount of space on each side of the sight. In this illustration, it just shows you the sight alignment. This is lined up perfect. Here your front sight's high. There you're off to the right. You're low. You're off to the left. You want to hold the center of mass, and this is what most people teach is being the Coke bottle or a bowling pin. You want to hold right here in the center of the mass. That's what we teach in the class. And this would be proper hold for center of mass. Okay, true or false? I'm shooting perfectly center mass at 7 yards, but I switched to target 25 yards away. I would aim high to account for a bullet drop, right? True or false? That's false. Definitely false. You always want to point or you want the bullet to go regardless of distance. Always. Always. Common shooter errors. Flinching. 95% of all shooter errors are caused by anticipating recoil. People that are anticipating the recoil of the gun, they end up flinching. And then this is on page 58 in the booklet, which you don't have, but there's common shooter errors. Milking, which is basically, I've got a gun here, it's clear, no magazine, but when you're pulling the trigger, you're actually, instead of just using your trigger finger, you're actually squeezing the gun with your whole hand. That's called milking. Weak grip is another common shooter error. Weak wrist and incorrect wrist alignment, and then incorrect finger placement as well. Here's common shooter errors. Pattern is low on the right. It's usually caused by milking or loose grip. Common shooter errors. Pattern is high and left. Offside hand not gripping, and heeling, which heeling is when you're pushing the gun up, you know, as you're shooting, and failure to follow through. Shooter errors. Jerking the trigger is a main problem. You want a smooth, continuous trigger pull. Shooter induced recoil, which is, you know, like flinching and jumping, and you're basically anticipating the recoil. And proper support hand use, and too much or too little finger on the trigger. Here's more common shooter errors. Pattern is to the left, trigger finger too far out, pushing the trigger sideways. Common shooter errors. Concentration lapses, that's very common. Catching it on the wobble where the front sights, clear gun, the front sights are moving and you're trying to hold it tight, and when it gets lined up just right, boom, you just shoot it real fast. That's not going to get you good results. Vision problems with you know, dominant eye, opposite gun hand, which actually my wife is cross dominant. She has a, you know, I'm right eye, right hand dominant, which most people are going to be dominant on the same hand and the same eye. But if you're right hand and left eye dominant, or left hand and right eye dominant, you know, they say that it can cause problems, but I mean, my wife is cross dominant and she shoots better than I do, so I'm not sure, but it just depends on the person, really, I guess. Pattern is loose but centered. It's tensing or flinching, not focusing on the front sight, or vision problems generally. Common incorrect, this is too much finger on the gun right here. This is more kind of what you want, just this you know, part of your finger right here on the trigger if possible, or you know, just basically up to your first knuckle here is, you know, anything past here is probably going to be too much finger. You know, this is the old style. That's what it says, old style strong double action. If you're shooting a gun, it's got a real heavy double action trigger. This is another example of that. Trigger right here in the middle, you're going to hit right there in the middle. Too much finger, you're going to be off to the right. Too little finger, usually you're going to be off to the left there. And then here's another picture. Proper sight alignment and sight picture. Everything's lined up, you're going to be right on. This is proper sight alignment. The sights are lined up perfectly, but you know, you're off to the left there. And this is the front sight on target but bad sight alignment, where the front sight's on target but the rear sight, see how there's less room here than there is on this side. You know, that's going to make you off to the left there. Then this one is you know, down. The rear sights are actually higher than the front sights. You're going to be shooting low on that one. Shooting errors. Find the errors in the following picture. Okay, this is kind of a cheesy picture, but we'll talk about it. Shooting errors is too much finger, too low on the back strap, head is brought to the weapon, and then it says where's her hearing protection, which I don't see any, but you know, she could have it. But anyways, it looks like she's probably got a little bit too much finger on the gun there, on the trigger. Probably needs to be up higher, and then her head is down, brought down low. Here's a common graph you've probably seen before, different places. It just shows the target and different places you're hitting around the target, and these are errors that could be causing the hit over here or down here, jerking or slapping the trigger. This is a common one down over here. Practice techniques. Here's just a few practice techniques, and you've probably seen these before, but here you go, the gun's loaded, no magazine. Anytime you dry fire a weapon, you just want to double check it every time. I mean, just to make sure there's nothing in there. Don't even have a magazine or ammunition in the same room with you, and keep the gun pointed in the safe direction at all times. But most people have probably seen this demonstration, but if you have trouble flinching or jerking, you can put a dime on the front sight, and then you just practice pulling the trigger. And I didn't have a two-handed grip on it at that time. The dime fell off. See, this is harder than it looks, but you put the dime on there, you get your trigger, boom, there you go. So you want to do that, practice that, so the dime stays on the front sight. Pencil and paper drill, it doesn't work as well with the striker fired weapons, but if you have like a 1911 or something like that, like a SIG, something, you can actually put a pencil down the barrel and stand a few inches away from the wall and put like a piece of paper up, and it'll actually push the pencil out a little bit, and it'll hit the paper, and you can kind of see if you're flinching or where your errors are coming at. Working with a coach, of course, you could do that, and then you can use snap cap exercises to clear malfunctions and load, unload, things like that. So those are just a few things that you can practice with. Like I said, safety is the #1 goal. This is very basic information that's presented in class, and I haven't done any lately, and I'm trying to get back into it. But please, if you have any comments, leave them. As always, thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.